Welcome to The Premiere, the place where you always find what to watch without wasting time searching. Today is a special episode, 15 science fiction series that changed how stories about the future and the human mind get told. There are robots with their own consciousness, time travel, post-apocalyptic worlds, clones, artificial intelligence, and underground shelters hiding huge secrets. Some have ended, others keep growing, but all deserve your time. Stay until the end, because number 1 defines what real science fiction means. Before we start, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Number 15. The Crossing. A group of people washes up on the shore of a small American coastal town. They speak the same language and come from the same country, and yet they claim to be refugees. The shock comes when their true origin is revealed. It is not a place, it is a time. They say they are fleeing a war that has not happened yet, 180 years in the future. The show takes the time travel premise and turns it into a story about migration, distrust, and what happens when a small town has to decide whether to believe something impossible. The local sheriff, a federal agent, and a mother searching for her refugee daughter form the center of a plot that blends political mystery with intimate science fiction. The Crossing is one of those small shows that watches fast and leaves an idea stuck in your head. If the future could warn you about something, would you believe it? It only had one season, but if you like mystery with that 2010s flavor of a show that ended too soon, it is good for an afternoon. Number 14. Future Man. Josh cleans floors at a research lab and still lives with his parents, but he has one talent nobody else has. He is the best player in the world at Cybergeddon, a classic video game nobody has ever beaten. When he finally finishes it, he discovers the game was never just a game, and characters straight out of the screen show up to recruit him for a real mission. The show takes the DNA of 80s and 90s time travel movies and mixes it with adult humor, video game references, and a plot that gets messier every time Josh and his team try to fix the future without noticing every change creates a new problem. It has the raunchy humor of the people behind Sonic and Superbad. It is perfect for when you want something light and quick to watch. With 3 seasons that close out completely and a tone that does not take itself too seriously. If you like science fiction with dark humor and 80s nods, it goes down easy. Number 13. Devs. Silicon Valley, present day. Lily is a software engineer at Amaya, one of the most powerful tech companies around. When her partner disappears under strange circumstances right after joining a top-secret division called Devs, Lily starts to suspect the answer is not with the police, but inside the walls of her own employer. Devs moves slowly on purpose, letting atmosphere, futuristic architecture, and score carry as much weight as dialogue. Behind the disappearance lie much bigger questions about determinism, free will, and what would happen if a technology could calculate the future with absolute precision. It is slow burn, philosophical, and visually hypnotic science fiction. Even as an 8-episode miniseries, it leaves a feeling that is hard to shake off. If you like shows that do not need explosions to build tension and would rather make you think than shock you, Devs is one of those gems many people skip without knowing what they are missing. Number 12. Orphan Black. Echoes. Decades after the events of the original Clone series, Lucy wakes up with no memory of her past, but with a constant feeling that something about her life is not entirely her own. As she tries to piece her story together, she starts crossing paths with other women asking the same questions about who they really are. The good part is, you do not need to have seen the original to follow it, even though it connects to that same universe of genetic manipulation and identity. Set in the near future, the show uses Lucy's personal mystery as the thread that unravels something much bigger about memory, control, and what it means to be an original person versus a copy. It only had 1 season, but it manages to close its story in a satisfying way without leaving you feeling something is missing. If you like science fiction with its own identity and mysteries that resolve calmly, this is a pretty accessible entry point into that whole universe. Number 11. The Peripheral. Flynn lives in a small American town and makes a living test-playing virtual reality games for other people. But one day, the game she is testing stops feeling like a game. Her choices start having real consequences, and she soon discovers she is connected to a future much farther away than she imagined. Based on the novel by William Gibson, the author who helped define cyberpunk, the show weaves together two timelines: Flynn's present and an advanced future that is watching and manipulating her from a distance. It comes from the creators of Westworld, sharing that same fascination with control and how far someone can go in running another person's life without them knowing. It only had one season, but it leaves behind a premise, so strong people are still hoping someone picks it back up. If you like cyberpunk and the kind of stories that leave you wondering who is really in control, it is worth watching even knowing it was left on pause. Number 10. The Lazarus Project. George has a normal life until he notices something strange. He is reliving the same weeks over and over, but he seems to be the only one who notices. When he meets someone who also remembers the resets, he discovers a secret organization capable of resetting time to a fixed point every time the world is about to end. The show turns time travel into a working tool. A group uses it to prevent global catastrophes, undo mistakes, and, in George's case, save someone he loves. It balances action, romance, and the moral dilemma of how far someone can go with the power to rewrite reality. With 2 critically praised seasons, it builds a solid time travel mythology without getting lost in boring technical explanations. If you like thriller-paced shows and the question of what you would do if you could reset time to fix your own mistake, it delivers a lot in just a few episodes. Number 9. Gen V. An exclusive university trains young people with superpowers who dream of climbing the ranking of the most famous heroes, in a world where being a superhero is also being a corporate celebrity. The show follows a group of students who compete against each other, discover the limits of their own powers, and notice the institution training them is hiding some pretty dark secrets. As part of the same universe as the boys, Gen V keeps that mix of satire, violence, and commentary on fame culture, but seen through younger characters who are still figuring out who they are. It works whether you already know the main universe or just want to step into this twisted version of a superhero world for the first time. With 2 seasons that close out its full story, it offers superpowered science fiction, dark comedy, and characters that genuinely spark opinions among viewers. If you want campus energy and that same irreverent tone that made its sister show popular, Gen V delivers plenty. Number 8. Lost in Space. The Robinson family is part of a group of colonists traveling toward a new planet to start over. An accident separates them from the rest of the mission and leaves them stranded on an unknown world with no help nearby and no guarantee of rescue. The only option is to learn to survive together. This modern take on a 60s classic blends family adventure with visually spectacular science fiction. Each member of the Robinson family gets their own arc and their own way of facing danger, while the planet hides mysteries that go far beyond what first looked like a simple accident. With 3 seasons that close the story completely, Lost in Space combines survival, space exploration, and family bonds in a package that looks incredible on a big screen. It is one of those shows perfect for family viewing without sacrificing emotion or high-end production. Number 7. Legion. David has spent years in and out of psychiatric hospitals with a diagnosis of schizophrenia. He hears voices, sees things that should not exist, and has learned to live with it. But an unexpected encounter with another patient confronts him with a possibility that changes everything. What if the voices and visions were not symptoms, but something real that nobody managed to identify? Legion is part of the X-Men universe, but moves completely away from the traditional superhero formula. The show is visually experimental, blends genres without warning, and tells its story from the perspective of a character whose grasp on reality cannot be trusted, which makes it feel closer to art house cinema than a conventional action series. With 3 seasons that close its full arc, it is one of the most visually daring entries on this entire list. If you like science fiction that plays with the viewer's mind, blends music, color, and non-linear storytelling, and comes from the mutant universe but feels completely different, Legion sticks with you. Number 6. Upload. Death no longer means the end. In the near future, people can upload their consciousness to a luxury digital afterlife called Lakeview, where the afterlife runs on a premium subscription model. When Nathan dies under suspicious circumstances and wakes up in Lakeview, he meets Nora, the customer service rep, handling his new virtual life. The show blends romantic comedy with tech satire very effectively. Every joke about afterlife payment plans hides a sharper point about how companies could monetize even death itself. The relationship between Nathan and Nora, one digital and one in the real world, becomes the emotional heart of the whole story. With 4 seasons that fully closed out the story, it strikes a perfect balance of laughs, romance, and a lingering idea. Would you pay to keep existing after death, and at what cost? If you want light science fiction with substance, Upload blends comedy and tech speculation like few shows have. Number 5. Snowpiercer. The world has frozen over. The last survivors of humanity live aboard a 1001-car train that endlessly circles the globe, and inside that train lies something as dangerous as the cold outside. A brutal class system where those at the tail survive on scraps while the front cars enjoy luxury and power. Based on the graphic novel that also inspired the film by Bong Joon-ho, the show expands that universe with new characters, onboard political conflicts, and a revolution that starts from the poorest cars. It works as a portrait of social inequality wrapped in action and the constant feeling that the whole train could derail at any moment. With 3 seasons telling a complete story, Snowpiercer combines post-apocalyptic science fiction with social commentary without ever losing its thriller pace. If you like closed-world stories, where every decision has consequences for everyone, it is one of those shows you binge without realizing it. Number 4. The Handmaid's Tale. The United States has been replaced by Gilead, a regime where fertility has become so scarce that the government controls the few women who can still have children. June is one of them, forced to live under a new name and rules that strip her of any right over her own life. The show builds a dystopia that feels uncomfortably possible, not because it is exaggerated, but because its logic of control, surveillance, and forced obedience feels recognizable. Across its seasons, it follows June's fight to survive, resist, and reclaim some of what was taken from her, all while Gilead expands and cracks at the same time. With 6 seasons that brought June's story to a definitive close, The Handmaid's Tale earned its place among the most talked-about dystopias of modern television. If you are drawn to science fiction that works as a mirror of real social tensions, it is worth watching start to finish. Number 3. Halo. 26th century. Humanity faces a threat that could mean extinction. The Covenant. An alien alliance with technology and firepower far superior to anything humans have. Humanity's real defense is the Spartans, soldiers genetically enhanced since childhood to become perfect weapons of war, and leading them all is the Master Chief, a name any fan knows by heart. This adaptation of the iconic franchise takes elements from the original lore and rearranges them into a standalone story, focused both on the war against the Covenant and on humanity's internal conflicts, military politics, information control, and how much humanity someone raised to be a weapon can reclaim. Whether or not you have played the games, Halo delivers large-scale space action, impressive production design, and a mythology that feels massive from the first episode. If you like military science fiction with alien conflicts and characters carrying secrets since their creation, it delivers plenty. Number 2. Fallout. 200 years after a nuclear war destroyed almost everything, part of humanity survives in luxury underground vaults, cut off from the outside world. Lucy has lived her whole life in one of those vaults, protected and with no real idea what the world outside looks like until an unexpected event forces her to the surface and she finds a wasteland far stranger, more violent and more absurd than anything her vault's handbook ever warned her about. Based on the iconic video game franchise, the show pulls off something very difficult, keeping the weird, violent, and satirical core of the original game while building characters and a story that work perfectly as a series. The retro-futuristic look and the blend of comedy and extreme violence create a tone unlike anything else in streaming. With 2 seasons that have already broken viewership records for Prime Video, Fallout quickly became one of the most talked-about video game adaptations of recent years. If you want post-apocalyptic science fiction with personality and that perfect balance between absurd and brutal, this is one of the strongest options out there right now. Number 1. Westworld. A futuristic theme park where guests pay to live out any fantasy inside worlds set in different eras, populated by androids indistinguishable from real humans. Everything is designed so guests can do whatever they want with no consequences. But the hosts, those androids programmed to please, start noticing something that was never supposed to happen. They remember Westworld takes the premise of a futuristic theme park and turns it into one of the most ambitious explorations of consciousness, free will, and the line between creator and creation ever made for television. It plays with timelines, dual identities, and deep philosophical questions, all while delivering a visual spectacle that matches its budget. With 4 seasons telling a complete saga, Westworld is one of those shows that defined an era of television science fiction, ambitious, intelligent, and willing to make you question who is really in control of a story. If you only watch one show from this list, make it this one. And that was everything here on The Premiere. Now tell me which of these science fiction series you have already watched and which one you still need to add to your list. If you enjoyed this top, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss our next movie, series, and streaming recommendations. See you in the next video.